The ASEAN group of countries held post-ministerial conferences on Friday with Britain, Russia and South Korea as part of the ASEAN foreign ministers' meetings in Laos. Among other things, they spoke about the progress they have made in their relations with the Southeast Asian grouping. The meetings in the Laotian capital seek to advance a stalled bid to resolve a crisis in Myanmar and cool tensions in the South China Sea. Earlier, Laos's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister welcomed the delegates before presenting the host country's traditional cuisine and cultural performances on Friday. Two summits will be held on Saturday to address key global issues. These will be attended by countries and entities such as the US, Japan and the EU. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar called on Lao PDR Prime Minister along with fellow foreign ministers in Laos on Saturday morning. He conveyed the warm greetings of India's Prime Minister. Both the leaders discussed development, partnership and cooperation in defence, heritage, conservation, energy, digital and capacity building between the two countries. Dr. S. Jaishankar said that he values his counterparts' guidance on further strengthening their close ties and are deeply rooted in shared civilizational connect. Dr. S. Jaishankar said India fully supports Lao PDR's chairship of the ASEAN and East Asia Summit. Dr. S. Jaishankar also met with Foreign Minister of Turkey, Hakan Fidanon, on the sidelines of ASEAN. They discussed bilateral ties and exchanged views on regional and global issues. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held meetings with his counterparts from South Korea, Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia and the European Union on the sidelines of ASEAN events in Laos on Friday. He also met Cho Tae-yeol, the Foreign Minister of Republic of Korea, and held a wide-ranging conversation on special strategic partnership. He also met Josep Borrell Fontelles, the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. The leaders discussed enhancing India-EU ties in areas of trade, clean energy transition and advanced technologies. The External Affairs Minister held conversation with Singapore Foreign Minister Vivian Balakrishnan. Both the leaders spoke about creating a new agenda for our bilateral ties. The Foreign Minister also met Indonesian Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi. He congratulated her stint as the Foreign Minister and appreciated her contribution towards India-Indonesia and India-ASEAN relations. Dr. S. Jaishankar also met Malaysian Foreign Minister Muhammad Haji Hassan and discussed the initiatives in the bilateral relationship between the two nations. Also earlier in the day, External Affairs Minister met his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov on the sidelines of the ASEAN events in Laos on Friday. The picture was shared by the Russian embassy in India. In his remarks in the ASEAN post-ministerial conference, Dr. S. Jaishankar said that political, economic and security cooperation with ASEAN is of utmost priority. He said that for India, ASEAN is the cornerstone of its Act East policy, the Indo-Pacific vision that was built on it and the people-to-people linkages that India is constantly seeking to expand. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Laos People's Democratic Republic for ASEAN post-ministerial conference. Blinken on Saturday met with Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister and reaffirmed US support for enhancing regional connectivity and resilience. Both the leaders discussed the deepening of the US-Laos comprehensive partnership.
We want to make sure that the comprehensive strategic partnership that we have with ASEAN really fully takes flight, and we're working very hard on that. But I also couldn't be more pleased to be here in Laos in terms of our own partnership and bilateral relationship. And as you said, we very much look forward to continuing to deepen it, to strengthen it, and to work with you. And I also want to thank you for the work that Laos has done on the Mekong-US partnership. And
all right, our correspondent Jessica Tanisha joins us with more. Jessica, good morning. Now, we've just given a broad outline of the bilateral meetings which the External Affairs Minister had with other leaders on the sidelines of ASEAN. You get us more on India's participation at the forum and how far will India's participation at this forum help in strengthening India's Act East policy?
Well, it's been 10 years to the Act East policy. Remember, earlier it was Look East policy and giving it a bit more heft. The Prime Minister in 2014 had announced that it is going to prioritize on the Act East policy and also neighborhood first policy. So looking at the current developments, as you pointed out in the report earlier, where the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held meetings with various ASEAN leaders and their foreign ministers, particularly with the Lao Prime Minister recently. In that, the External Affairs Minister had taken up a vast range of issues and also talked about cyber crimes and how both the countries can cooperate, and of course a lot of illegal activities that have been initiated due to those crimes where Indians have been caught in the fray as well. So of course that was a crucial point to discuss, and how that can be eased out in the near future. Looking at the other meetings that the External Affairs Minister has had in the last few days, as he has been in Laos to strengthen the India-ASEAN relationship. Now currently the India-ASEAN free trade area, which has completed almost more than a decade now, you'd see that it has grown in trade, but the trade imbalance still needs to be addressed, and India feels that there are points and places where it does need to be corrected and worked out. There have been discussions with various foreign ministers on the sidelines as well. And if you see the kind of engagements India has been holding at the ASEAN nations, it is only strengthening what was already before in terms of the bilateral relationship, or also stressing a lot on the security and economic cooperation, particularly when it comes to a free and open Indo-Pacific strategy where there is a rules-based order. Now, if you look at the concerns of the ASEAN nations at this point, of course Myanmar being one of them, the coup in Myanmar and Aung San Suu Kyi was ousted in 2021, and the country continues to simmer with a civil war, and thousands, approximately more than 5,000 people have died and more than 25,000 injured, and about 3 million people displaced in Myanmar. So that is a major concern for ASEAN nations. Apart from that, China's expansionist activities in the South China Sea are of major concern, particularly for Vietnam, for Philippines. So these discussions also happening on the sideline, but for India's concern, India has made it clear that it wants to continue to do more business and hopefully have more cooperation in areas of cybersecurity, climate action, technology, in order to further enhance the bilateral trade between India and ASEAN nations.
All right, Jessica, we leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with that elaborate analysis and those details.